Welcome back. So today's video is the top 10 tips after 10 years of coaching people with their fitness. So tip number one is consistency is always king. So no matter what you are trying to achieve with your fitness and health, the more consistent you can be, the better off your results. And so a lot of people, when they start some sort of fitness journey, they can get very motivated and they get all fired up and they want to start doing 5 days a week, 6 days a week, every single day, cutting everything out of their diet, doing some quite extreme things and quite extreme changes. But if you only maintain that for a few weeks or a month, then you're probably not going to get very far. Whereas if you were to do 3 workouts a week, but you could maintain it for the long term, you could maintain it for a year, those 3 workouts a week are going to give you superior results, obviously, than by doing a month really hard. And so for most people, depending on their situation, but for most people, they can't exactly go into a situation where they suddenly have no work, they suddenly have no family responsibilities. And so implementing realistic changes is a far better approach. And so often, like when people would come into the gym, for example, one of the best ways I would find is that for the first few weeks even, is to just focus on building the exercise habit. And we can talk about the food, we can start to look at it somewhat, but we don't have to drastically change anything in that front, in the lifestyle front, because we're trying to just get the fitness done. We're trying to just get 2 or 3 consistent sessions a week. And once we nail that, then we can start adding some other things on. But just remember that consistency is always the most important factor, and it's something that you really need to consider, because longer term, you want to not just build fitness, but be able to maintain it for a long period of time. So number 2 is that age is less of a factor than you want to believe. So as you get older, things get harder. There's no debate there from me. I've coached a lot of people who are significantly older than the average gym person, and actually primarily most of my clientele have been in the 50 to 80 year old category. But the reality is, even in that age group, even in the 50, 60, 70, 80 year olds, the processes and systems of building fitness are very much the same. It is still about building on what you have. It's still about pushing your body that little bit harder. It's just that as you get older, you need to be a bit more cautious. You need to be a bit more considered with the training program that you do. You need to focus more on recovery than you do when you're younger. And you're probably not going to be able to reach the same peak that you could, as a 20 or 30 year old. But the peak that you can reach is much, much higher than most people realize. I was just hiking yesterday with a 65-year-old guy who was outpacing me. And everyone's different. And obviously some people get to a certain age and they struggle with health problems that are different from others. But fundamentally, whilst age can make some things harder, it doesn't stop your progress entirely. You just have to approach things in the right way. So don't ever let age, the idea that you're a certain age now, distract you from building and achieving amazing things with your fitness. You can still build and maintain fitness for a significantly longer time than most people want to believe. So number 3 we've got is supplements are for the most part useless. So whilst there are a few supplements out there that show some level of benefit, even the top supplement, the one that's been the most studied and the most proven to have some level of benefit, and that is creatine, it's still a very small benefit. It's still a amount of improvement, an amount of performance enhancing percentage that is still relatively small, and that's the best one out there. That's the one that is scientifically shown to be the best one out there. And so everything else is even less important than that. And now this isn't to say supplements cannot be used and should not be used or anything, because for a lot of people there is some level of benefit to add in some supplementation, especially if they have specific deficiencies. But if you don't know what those deficiencies are, if you haven't had a blood test or if you haven't had a doctor to work it all out, then just taking a whole lot of random supplements is unlikely to really do anything for you. And the term itself really outlines what a supplement is meant to be. It's meant to be a supplementary aspect of your diet, of your fitness, and of your lifestyle. If you haven't got those basics in place, if you haven't got the fitness in place, if you haven't got the the training in the gym, as well as nutrition, lifestyle, rest, recovery, and so on, supplements are going to be almost not noticeable. So if you do want to take supplements, you always want to do it in an approach and in a specific way. So a lot of people might take things like magnesium or zinc because their doctor has said, well, you're short on those, and those are things that you need more of. But taking like a multivitamin or taking just all sorts of gym supplements that you see in the store is probably going to have very little benefit. And sometimes it actually makes people think that they can be, I guess, more lax with the other aspects that are really going to get them where they need to go. So number 4 is motivation is overrated. So motivation is great for a short term. It's great for, some days you'll feel motivated, some days you won't. I would say out of every 10 workouts that I would do, for example, maybe 2 or 3 of them I feel somewhat motivated, quite motivated to actually get out and I want to do it. Probably another 3 or 4 I feel, 50-50. And then another 3 or 4 out of that 10 where I feel not motivated at all. So what we want to focus on instead of motivation is committing to doing what we said we were going to do. Because the reality is that if you can just turn up and do it, the motivation will often come once you get started. So once you spend 10 minutes warming up, you'll often start to feel that motivation come. Whereas if you're sitting at home, it's a cold winter's morning, it's very hard to get motivated when you're not doing anything. Whereas when you get up, you start moving, start getting into it, start lifting a few weights or doing a bit of a walk or whatever it may be, that motivation will often come as a result. And so motivation is not something that we just have. It's something that we can tap into at times. But the real focus should be on having a dedication and commitment to the thing that we said we were going to do. Because motivation is going to wane day to day, and we really want to have a deeper purpose as to why we're doing these things rather than relying on and thinking that motivation is going to drive us through. So number 5, focusing on exercise first will often give you better results than focusing solely on nutrition. Now, we need to focus on all these things. We need to focus and look at a multifaceted approach when we consider our fitness. And so we do need to focus on nutrition, sleep, rest, recovery, all these other things as well. But for most people, I've found that focusing on fitness first is a lot more motivating. And as we just said in point number 5, but about motivation, but when you start with fitness, within a matter of weeks, you can already start to feel changes. You can see changes sometimes, but you can start to feel stronger. You start to get results. You after the first few workouts, you could do say 5 push-ups. Now you can do 10. It's a really nice feeling to get that sort of quick result. Whereas when we look at nutrition and when we look at things like weight loss, they're really long-term goals. They take a really long time. Whereas whilst building a really high level of fitness takes a long time, when we start out, we can actually build quite a good base quite quickly. And so by focusing on really harnessing and getting in, 2 or 3 really good workouts every week, as well as a little bit more movement, you're going to find that you progress really well. And then we can start to incorporate nutrition and other lifestyle factors to really go along and enhance the fitness abilities that you're getting. So number 7, number 6. Number 6 first. So number 6, you are not unique. So a lot of people want to believe that they are, they have a unique problem. They'll use these things as excuses and, I have this, or I have this job, or I have this family situation, or I have this injury, or I have this illness, I have this, whatever it may be. The reality is you are not unique. And this is a good thing because you don't want to be unique. And look, there are obviously some outliers that are genuinely unique. But for the most part, if you have a bad knee or you have a bad back or you have a bad shoulder, you have a kid at home that you're looking after. These are not problems solely on you. These are problems that many other people have faced. And so when you've coached, I've coached well over 1,000 people, different people, they've all had different unique problems. And so it sort of shows you that all of these people can do it, and you can look to them for guidance, advice, and help. And when, looking at a strategy to overcome the problem that you have, because you aren't unique and your problem can be dealt with. And so if you think, well, oh, now I've got this bad knee, no one else has that problem. But the reality is a lot of people do have that problem. And a lot of them have been able to overcome it. So when you are not unique, it means you can really look to others to guidance, and you can overcome some of the problems that are actually a lot more widespread than you think. Because a lot of people have an idea that, well, they look at someone who's fit and they think, well, they must just have nothing wrong with them. They must just have all the time in the world. They must have no injuries. They've never dealt with a problem in their life. But that's very much not true. It's that they've dealt with them in a certain way. And by finding out what ways they have dealt with it, you can then apply them into your life and your situation to overcome them as well. So number 7 is that fitness is far more about how you function than how you look. So fitness as an industry kind of came from that really looks-based background. And so a lot of people get very caught up because a lot of what's pushed out there is related to the especially now with social media, with the internet and so on, it's a very image-based marketing approach. And so we see certain people online with, certain physiques, and people kind of think that's what fitness is. And like, there's nothing wrong with having that, and there's nothing wrong with pursuing that if that's really your goal. But for most people, the results and the things that they get out of fitness are the functionality. Going from being someone who is always sore all the time, or they're always tired, or they get sore walking up the stairs, or they can't get down to play with their kids or grandkids, and doing things for, in the gym for a few months, and now they can do those things. Now they do have more energy. Now they are able to play with their kids and their family more. And so a lot of people get misled by that sort of image-based, because that's where a lot of the fitness stuff is centered. But it doesn't have to be you, and you can use fitness, and I would say you get a lot more out of fitness when you consider it more from a functional perspective, in the sense of what it can do for you, functionally, rather than just worrying about how you look. So number 8, nobody regrets doing exercise. So like I talked about in the motivation part, if you commit to just getting there, getting in and starting your workout, even if it's not perfect, even if it's not the best performance you put in, you will always feel better from doing it. Even if you only spend half an hour, and it's not a great workout, you didn't do as much as you wanted, you're still going to feel better. You're going to have those endorphins flowing, and you're going to feel a lot nicer afterwards than if you didn't do exercise. And so if you can always remember that, if you can always keep in mind that if you do a workout, if you just turn up, if you just get started, you're never going to regret it. You're never going to turn back and go, I wish I didn't go to the gym this morning, unless maybe you get injured or something like that. But of course, that would not be ideal. But you're never going to regret doing exercise. You're never going to regret the half an hour or the hour that you spent, because the rest of your day is going to be, and the rest of your life is going to be so much better as a result. So number 9, there is no such thing as a gym person. A lot of people get caught up with this idea of there being a certain type of person that goes to the gym, the muscle head guy, or the people who are just worried about their looks, or whatever it may be. But this is a really limiting way of viewing what fitness and what the gym world is and can be. You don't need to be a certain type of person to go to a gym. You don't need to be a certain type of person to achieve amazing things with your fitness. So don't be concerned about this idea of what is and isn't a gym person. If you are a person, you are a gym person. So go to a gym, find a gym that works for you, find a community of people that works for you. And if you really can't, well, you can always work out at home as well. But there is no such thing as a gym person. And lastly, number 10, there is never a perfect time to start. The only time you have is now. So I would argue it's actually almost a better idea to start when you're a little bit busier than normal. What people often consider is they think, well, now that I've got some time, now I can start working on my fitness. But what happens when those busy times come back? What happens when, the reality is most people aren't going to get a period of time unless maybe they're coming up to retirement soon or something like that. But most people are probably going to remain busy in some way. Those work commitments and family commitments and so on, they're always going to be there. And they can come and go in waves, of course, but there's always going to be a limit on the time that you have available. And so if you want to do something, then you really just got to get started. You've got to just put your foot in. You've got to just kick it off and get into it, because there is never going to be a time where you are perfectly suited to start something like this. There's never going to be a time in your life where you suddenly now have endless amounts of free time. You have all the perfect lineup in the world to be able to do something now with your fitness. And what you'll find is that when you're busier and you implement things within your life, then when you are busy again, you implement ways and strategies to remain healthy. When you are then busy again, you can take those on and ensure that the next time you're in a really busy patch in life, that you have some strategies to deal with it. So for example, if you travel a bit for work, when you go for that first travel session, you say, well, it's all too much and don't worry about it. But if you actually take the time to implement a bit of a strategy for while you're away to maximize what you can do, because obviously there's always limitations, to maximize what you can do with your fitness and health and how you can eat the best while you're away, while you're traveling, how you could get in a few little workouts in a hotel gym or whatever it may be, then next time you go to travel, you've got that as a base. You've already done that and you know that you can do it. And you can keep improving upon that. And it's the same with anything that, if you've got kids or if you've got a whole lot of other responsibilities in your life, the best time is always now. If you really want to do it, if you really feel like you need to do something, you've had it in the back of your mind and you're just waiting for that perfect time is never going to come. It's just going to be another month where you haven't done anything. And the more, the faster you get started, the faster you can really feel and see those results. So those have been the top 10 tips, I would say, after 10 years of coaching people. Coached a lot of different people in my time and seen some amazing results from the people who follow these fundamental principles. Fitness is achievable for anybody, I believe. And that looks different for everybody because everyone's got a different starting point. But if you want to get fitter, you want to get stronger, and you want to get healthier, then you can do it regardless of where you are right now. So I hope that's been helpful. I hope that's been informative. If you have any further questions, you want to know anything, or you have questions about this video or any of the others, simply send me a message or leave a comment below, and I'll talk to you in the next video.